here we are. This is S.x Love Psychedelics, and I'm your host, Dr. Kat, bringing you psychosexual conversations that will leave you intellectually turned on and hungry for more.
Back to Eve's curse and this concept of pain. How have we? I think about what we said earlier: no pain, no gain. How we've been trained as a society to put up with discomfort or to not speak up about pain, and yet pain is really important. Have we trained ourselves to have high pain tolerance, or have we just trained ourselves to put up with it, ignore it, minimize it? And yet, what is the real purpose of it?
Yeah, a lot of women do put up with pain because ignorance, we're just not educated about the fact that, say, first time sex shouldn't hurt. There should be, if it hurts, there's likely an issue like not enough foreplay, emotional discomfort, or there's, a pelvic floor issue, or perhaps even a physical illness like endometriosis. We're not
Mhm.
taught that. We're just taught like get it over with and then you
Yeah,
can have fun the next few times. And also, I think there's just a lack of medical support. Like a lot of women with period pain, their doctors will just say, take Advil or go on birth control. And it's actually really difficult to find a doctor who will take those things seriously. Same with a lot of female health conditions. I dealt with a clitoral infection called balanitis, which is like a yeast infection in the clitoris, but for some
Mm.
people, not like it is yeast infection in the clitoris. And for some reason, if you look it up, you just hear about the yeast infection in the penis. And doctors, the first OB/GYN I went to just said, well, everything looks fine to me. Maybe try like pelvic floor physical therapy. Maybe you have clitoral pain because of like something with the muscles. And the physical therapist likely caught it and was like, no, it looks red. It looks like there's an infection. But the doctor didn't, which I find crazy. But a lot of women are dealing with, and then I had to see like a super specialized doctor when like
Mhm.
it should be something normal doctors screen for. So a lot of women put up with pain, I think, because like the resources aren't so available to like actually find the right people to treat it and take it seriously. Like, especially in our healthcare system, usually it goes through your insurance and you don't really have the capacity to like find the best doctor or the
Sure.
best specialist. Yeah, I talked to one woman named Sarah Ramey who wrote her own chronic illness memoir, The Lady's Handbook for Her Mysterious Illness, and
Mhm.
she thinks functional medicine is the way forward. Those are medical professionals who look more for things like gut microbiome, diet, things that other doctors don't test for, and those are like not covered by insurance in general. So I think a big reason we end up just putting up with pain is lack of resources to
Yeah.
actually treat it and deal with it.
Yeah, so we're just kind of managing it instead of being able to understand what the root cause is. And two, there's I'm noticing the part of me that doesn't want to blame the doctors because they're also so overwhelmed with information and back-to-back clients. I feel like it's more of a systemic issue than the doctors themselves. I just see, and I've even dated doctors, like the exhaustion that they're having to go through to be everything and know everything and be up to date with everything. Although I believe having this type of information around women's bodies and women's reproduction and women's sexuality is should be a course. That should be a basic course for everybody to take.
Yeah, it's and I always advocate like don't assume your doctor knows everything,
Yeah.
do your own research, ask questions, see someone else if you don't agree with them. Like hopefully at least even a doctor who can't keep up with all the research will listen and
Yeah.
um
Yeah, their response to or their curiosity. I recently had to let a doctor go who was actually a functional doctor, but and she was a female. I the minimization that I had around expressing the symptoms that I had, she told me I needed to, and I quote this, she said, positive psychology focuses on the positive, on the positivity. But if we focus more on what's working for you and getting better and less about what's not working. And I got so upset in that response. So it's even just beyond, this male, female doctor. It's like a social expectation around looking at or pushing through or looking past minimizing our own symptoms. So it brings me back to this question of when is something normal? When is it something that's natural? And when is it something that's a common issue, especially as it relates to pain or symptoms?
Yeah, I distinguish between these three words because people confuse them often. People think, for instance, that just because period pain is very common, that it's therefore normal or natural, when actually,
Mhm.
in our society, there are so many things influencing period pain. There are hormone disrupting chemicals in household products, which have a link to period pain and hormonal disorders. There's just high stress, lifestyles, poor sleep, poor diet. There's so many things about our modern world that actually contribute to pain. And there's been studies linking diet to period pain, specifically lots of processed foods, processed meats in particular, caffeine, alcohol. Yeah, so there's just all these things in our modern society that are contributing to our pain and making it common. Also poor medical care, a lot of diseases going undiagnosed. There's actually Maya Dusenberry lays this out in the book Doing Harm. There's two types of period pain. Primary, without a known cause, and secondary because of a chronic illness. And a lot of people think they have primary period pain when they have secondary. It's not diagnosed. There's not just endometriosis, but things like fibroids, interstitial cystitis. There's a lot of health issues that just are poorly understood and slip under the radar that are actually causing someone's period pain. So, and then if you look at something else like certain menopause symptoms, so things like vaginal dryness or itching or pain during menopause, some of this is actually common and natural, meaning it is a consequence of aging without necessarily having a physical illness or a physical health problem, but it still is not normal because normal implies like an expectation, an expectation for your quality of life. And we shouldn't consider it normal to ever have to have pain during sex. So people argue a lot about what it is and isn't natural. But if something is disrupting your life and stopping you from enjoying sex, then it's not normal, period. And whether that's something caused by an illness, by some um, larger ecological issue, or by just something like aging, we should still have treatment for that thing and still be able to expect to live our lives without pain as much as is humanly possible.
Well, that was fun. Thanks for tuning in, lovers. And if you want to experience more ecstasy and sexual liberation, head over to sexlovepsychedelics.com and learn about how you can join me for any one of my online or live events. And while you're there, grab my free guide on sex and psychedelics. Remember, this podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Please contact your healthcare provider and local law before pursuing any of the products or psychedelics discussed. And one final note here. I make this show specifically for you. If you're loving the show, then be sure to leave me a review in iTunes or Spotify to let me know. Happy to be here and happy to serve. I'll see you next time on Sex, Love, Psychedelics.